I learned these skills from a young age, seeing my dad, work and be an entrepreneur, run business, him juggling life and business and making it to our soccer games and all that sort of stuff. So I saw that and started to develop the skills where I was like, okay, I have to know how to, number one is manage my time and respect my own time, not just say yes to everything. A friend calls you to go out, yeah, I'll be there. Friend says, go play basketball today, I'll be there. You got to be very selective with your time, and you have to know how to say no to people. That's one of the hardest skills. So learning how to work efficiently from my days working as a manager, working my way up, that taught me how to be efficient with my time. As I got older too, I realized how I had to put more time into the important things, and I can't be doing everything because you'll burn yourself out. So really just saying no to opportunities, saying no to certain lunches or dinners or parties, because you have to prioritize sleep and health and all that stuff. Yeah. And then as I got older, it just really realized, even tightening my circle closer to say, okay, I have my close friends, if they call me, and my family, I'll drop everything for them. And that should be it. Being that social guy who's got 10 friend group, or trying to not friend groups, but trying to go out with these people, and that gets exhausting. They're still great. I'll still always be there for them when they need me, but I got to prioritize my own time. And how that translates out of the podcast is that when we started the podcast, it was still a hobby once a week. So it was all we have to do is a couple hours a week, if that, do an episode, edit quickly. The outreach is a little bit harder, promoting it. But now we've got to the point where we're fortunate, where we have a manager who works for us, Danielle, amazing manager. Actually, my girlfriend's a really good friend, but she's super talented and helps take a lot of that off of us. But how I was able to manage all that to this point, not get burnt out, manage my career at the family business, manage the podcast, manage my social life, manage Cast as it was starting, was just really being able to prioritize to me what the most important things are. Family first, my close friends, and obviously my career. And being able to just say no to certain things, not being worried about missing out, not having FOMO, not saying, oh, I got to go to this party and I got to go to this sporting event. I got to go watch this game and do all these things. It's exhausting. Yeah. If people want to be successful in life and get ahead and really prioritize the important things, the most important lesson that I can share that works for me is just saying no a lot more often. And people are not going to get mad at you for saying no. They understand you're busy. And if they do get offended, you probably don't need to give them time anyways, because they shouldn't be offended. Exactly. So that's the biggest thing, was just go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to ask you, as you were talking about, trying to manage your time and prioritizing the important things, I wanted to narrow it down on podcasting. We often get, we have people who ask us questions about how to start a podcast and, what advices we have for them, but I want to ask you, what was the most challenging thing for you starting this podcast? I know you said that you handle the technical stuff. We also divide tasks, and our difficulties differ. So what is challenging for me might not be challenging for Ivan, because we don't have the same tasks. But for you personally, what has been a challenge, or what was the challenge when you got started with the podcast?
The biggest challenge for us to start was honestly just realizing. Trying to phrase this properly. The biggest challenge for myself was just being comfortable just talking and sharing your opinion and not really caring what others are going to think. To me, that is a hard part, right? It's easy. People say to me, you seem like you can talk about anything and, confident and that stuff. But no matter who you are or what you talk about or how much you know, what you believe, it's still a bit scary and it still sticks to the back of your mind. I'm not going to speak for you guys, but no matter what, you say something, you're like, oh, I probably sound stupid there. And then you have to get worried that someone's going to be like, oh, this guy's an idiot. But then you have to get, that was the hardest part for me. And I got over it pretty fast, where I'm like, you know what? Honestly, and this is one thing I want to share with people as well, that I realized as a lesson from this. This is no offense to anybody out there, but most people are idiots, myself included. We're all idiots to some degree. Yeah. So you're going to say something stupid. You're probably the only one that realizes it. People don't care. And that's one of the things. So to your point about even giving advice on how to get started. So I think so many people, that at least I can see, one of the biggest barriers for them is again, what are people going to think of me? Are they going to listen? All this stuff. Honestly, that should be the least of your worries. And I think people should not care at all. And if you, to that point, and Ivan, you said it earlier on, about, doing it for yourself and, doing it for the right reason, not doing it for the money and all that. if you do it for yourself and you just talk about like what you care about, like you guys, politics, culture, and like now even in basketball, like if you talk about what you're passionate about, even if you say something that's stupid, like the passion comes out and people like they'll listen and say, oh, this person really likes this. They're really passionate about it. Maybe they don't know everything, but I can hear that they're excited when they talk about it. Then you sound genuine. Then people are like, oh, he's not fake or she's not fake. That's what they care about. Yeah. So I guess those are the two things, right? Just being like believing what you believe, talk about what you're passionate about, and stop caring what everyone's going to say when they listen, because you're going to say stupid shit for sure.
100%. Like I feel like you come to a state where you almost become numb to watching yourself. It's kind of like it's you, but you're like, you know what? It is what it is. Like, because I remember at the beginning, I was like that too. I was just like, oh man, but it's because we talk politics. I'm like, man, some of these older guys are gonna be like, who are these kids? What are these kids talking politics for, man? Come on, like stuff like that. But and then I came to a point where I just became super numb to it. I'm like, it is what it is. Like we're trying to, as much as we're trying to understand, as much as you guys are trying to understand this, So it's kind of like it kind of reached to a point where it's like I felt less of a care for like the negative stuff, and because there's so much. That's the thing. We always pay attention to the negative. We don't pay attention to how much positivity you get. So start paying attention more to the positive stuff. And one thing you touched on that's actually that I would love to talk about is the fact that how genuine the podcast space is if you're doing it for the right reasons. Like the Pals is a very genuine podcast, a genuine conversation with a guest or whatever. And I feel like we're shifting where like the society is shifting where people kind of don't want to be watching like these talk shows or whatever anymore. They want to see their favorite people, or they want to see their favorite people sit down for an hour or whatever and talk. Because as I remember, I think Joe Rogan talked about it or whatever. He's like, once you get a guest to want to come and sit down with you for an hour, if they can try to be fake all they want, but you cannot be fake for an hour. It's impossible. Like the truth comes out. Like I remember watching an episode of Joe Rogan with Robert Downey Jr. I'm just like, man, that's the most honest I've ever seen that guy. And I feel like that's where like the culture is shifting towards people liking more of these long form conversations that are raw and authentic.
100%. I completely agree with you. And like, it actually carries over as well. And like, that's actually one of the things why I love podcasts before I got into this. I don't know if you guys know, I took a year leave from work to go travel and backpack. And that's kind of when I got into it, especially Joe Rogan. I listened to a lot, some sports ones. Bill Simmons, I'm sure as basketball fans, you must know Bill is, but, being genuine, I think, is the most important. You get a lot, like if you can tell pretty fast who's doing it for the right reasons, you can see if it's genuine. But to your point, like that's one of the things that you're seeing as well. I think it's like not even like you made the point about like entertainment, people watching like this rather than talk shows. I honestly think it's even bigger than that. I think it's like a societal shift. And a good example I can use too of people wanting to see more genuine, authentic stuff is to touch on quickly, like TikTok as an app. I was very, very like not anti TikTok. I see the value in it, but I was like, I have too many apps in my life. I'm building a social media app. Like I cannot, if I get into TikTok, it's over. I'm not going to do any work. But you know what? So here's the thing. So the point of that was I got on it because I'm like, you know what? I can to document the journey of Cast. I might as well start using this as a tool. But it's interesting to see that the content that gets posted on there compared to the content gets posted on Instagram is pretty different. Like a lot of people cross-promote their reels and all that, but it's very different. And sure, there's going to be fake people on TikTok too, but it's like the younger generation, people like us and lower Gen Z, millennials, they seem to want those like, no filters on their videos, more like random stupid shit, just like crazy, whatever it is. It seems more authentic and it's less scripted and planned. Whereas like, that Instagram generation where we kind of fall, I guess, in the border and like a little bit older, everything's curated, everything is planned, everything is scripted. So like you see that in like social media, to your point, in media with like talk shows. And I there's still a market for that. People want to see that content. They like it. But I really think more and more in the next 5 years, 10 years, you're going to really see that like curated content is going to start to really go away. Podcasts, you can see it taking over because Spotify is buying every major podcast. Yeah. They just bought that Call Her Daddy podcast. I don't listen to Call Her Daddy, but they just gave her $60 million. She secured the bag. That's crazy.
For real.
But you
For
see, like that's
real.
authentic. That girl talks about like the craziest shit, and like
Yeah.
people want to listen
Yeah.
to that because it's real life. Like it's
Mm.
true. It's not. It's raw, right? Like that's how life is. Life is real. You don't have two chances to have a conversation with someone. You have it, and that's what happens. So to your point, yeah, I think that's like one of the reasons why I loved what we do and why I think podcasting is growing. And I obviously love what you guys are doing too. It's just you want to talk about what you care about, and then you'll find your people who want to listen because they want to listen to you because you're you, not because you're some fake person saying I'm going to talk. We like politics and culture. We're going to talk about ice hockey. They're going to say, "What the hell?" Like, I'm listening to these guys like they're reading a script.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. To your point,
yeah.
it's
Yeah. But
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, no, like what's more interesting for me is that, just the platform, the medium that is podcasting, is just so great because like it kind of forces people to be open and especially if it's like a long form podcast about like an hour, more than an hour, uh like when you get to interview people, like I'm sure you guys have had this experience where you'll have a guest on and they're pretty like tight at the beginning of the podcast, of the interview, and then as the episode goes on, you see them open up and start talking about like you just discover personality, like many personalities of the guests, right? And like I think that that's one thing that like the traditional media, mainstream media is missing. If you go and watch these interviews of celebrities, they usually run for like 10 minutes max or 15 minutes, and in 15 minutes you can sit down and say like I'll be as scripted as I can, but like like if it's you're sitting down for an hour and a half, you eventually you'll open